Hello there, Clone Wars Intrepids. This is your friend Chad Peak, aka Peak-OB1 from Peak-OB1 Custom Creations on Facebook. Along with me, I have Brian Fulton and Elias Fulton from the Customs for the Kid blog spot. And this is another awesome episode of Customizing the Clone Wars, episode number 66. How are you guys doing, man?
Doing okay.
Yeah, we're doing good.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yep.
So we're sporting our green.
Yep.
You got your green.
I don't own green clothes.
We're going to be covering the green mist of the Night Sisters.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, this is episode 66 for us, right? Another episode, awesome episode. And it's what I affectionately, it is about the Night Sisters, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely what I affectionately call Attack of the Undead Zombie Ninja Witches.
Oh, yeah. This is a fun episode. And it's cool because it's really retribution. It's an episode where, you're seeing things that took place in past episodes now coming, to the forefront, and basically a situation where Talzin got herself into some trouble with Dooku, and now Dooku's giving us some payback. Exactly.
Let me read about that real quick. The original air date for this episode was February 24th, 2012, way back when, right? And it says Asajj Ventress returns to her homeworld, Dathomir, and becomes a full-fledged Night Sister, abandoning her Sith ambitions. Meanwhile, Count Dooku has not forgotten the Night Sisters' treachery and sends General Grievous to Dathomir to wipe out the witches. Asajj and the Night Sisters fight back by targeting Dooku with dark magic and summoning the dead. Wow, that is a mouthful, right? Oh my goodness. Dave Filoni, outdid yourself, sir. You really did with this episode. When I heard undead witches, I was like, I'm sorry, what? I was like, yes, this is amazing, because it honestly brings another level to the galaxy far away, right?
Yeah.
And they made it work too. They didn't it wasn't as cheesy as just zombie Night Sisters. There was more to it than that. They got involved with dark magic and all that fun stuff. So
exactly.
Yeah, we can get into that later in the episode.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the dark alchemy, I love it. I always thought that the dark side was made up of this dark alchemy, where they're using it to twist the Force and whatnot. But if you haven't seen our show, we are a Clone Wars centric show. We hope for the best. We're just huge fans, right? We make episodes of the Clone Wars where we discuss them. This is a post-game show, so if you haven't seen this, spoiler alert, spoilers ahead, right?
Oh yeah, spoiler heavy, but there's no way for us to avoid that without compromising our show. I mean, we're really about showing you the characters that appear in each show and how to make toys of these characters. So if we didn't spoil, we'd have nothing to show you.
Exactly, yeah. I know a lot of people are doing Clone Wars rewatches, and yeah. I think this time it's for real on Netflix. They said April 7th.
Oh, I thought it was the 4th. Wow, 7th.
Yeah.
Well, you get 3 more days, but yeah, that's so soon.
What do you think? I think it really is going to go away this time, don't you?
I do, because I know with the Disney streaming service, Disney Plus, they're opening up their entire library to people who pay into that subscription service, and the Clone Wars episodes are part of that library. So it only makes sense, why give that content to Netflix? That's going to be their competitor, especially when Clone Wars was for a very long time the #1 show on all of Netflix.
Yeah, I agree. 5 stars all the way around the minute it showed up on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
They had an exclusive content, the Lost Missions, which we will hopefully get into. Not hopefully, we will get into it as we finish it out. We're still in season 4 right now, and we've been winding down. I've had a lot of things going on. That's why you haven't seen a new episode from us. So sorry about that. I got married. I went on my honeymoon. Then I got sick. And then, of course, we were waiting for the #1 ship, technically from the Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, we got a ship from the Clone Wars. And what was that recently? There it is. It's the sail barge. Yeah, if you don't remember, folks, in the Clone Wars, we see, in the theatrical release, we see the sail barge and the desert skiffs flying through the desert. And that's the, what is it called? The Separatist Trident.
In the back there? Yeah.
Yeah, and that thing comes in and blows the skiff to the right up and then grabs the sail barge, and takes, obviously kidnaps Stinky, Rhoda the Hutt.
Yep.
I was hoping we'd see more of him in these, maybe even the sequel trilogy. That would be awesome.
I heard rumors of that. What I've seen so far, there are at least visual comparisons between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. Like, when you have Crate, it's a salt planet rather than a snow planet, and you have like that big gorilla looking walker as opposed to the AT-AT. So yeah, so what I heard is that we should be expecting to see Rhoda the Hutt in, this last installment, which may line up for like Return of the Jedi. So, like there has been talk of, this new trilogy being a soft reboot of the original trilogy. And, we'll see if there is evidence of that in that final installment.
Yeah, and that kind of bums me out. I want it to be chapters. I won't go into all my rants with, this trilogy. I would prefer it to be more connected in a way that, it follows like chapters in a book and whatnot. But it doesn't seem, you're right, it doesn't seem like it's kind of going that route. It's like a refresh a little bit. But I think it would be cool if they brought in Rhoda the Hutt. And he took his father's place.
Yep.
It only seems like natural selection, right?
Yeah.
Because we'll get into some more episodes in season 5 when we deal with the Hutts. We deal with all the different Hutts as we go. So let's get into this episode. It's called Massacre once again, and this, on top of all the cool things that we see in this, we're also seeing another step, another evolution in one of the greatest characters in the Clone Wars or in Star Wars itself, right? Ventress, right? Tell us, how do you feel about Ventress, Elias?
For me, she was like really one of like those strong female characters that like in the beginning for me was like a villain, like, like you kind of like were like taught to not like her because like she's a villain, and you were like, oh, Ventress is like the bad guy and all this, but then she like evolved into like one of the characters that like you could empathize with, especially after this episode. Like she goes through a lot of like emotions throughout this episode, so that really helps develop her character arc and like how you can emotionally connect with that character.
Exactly. That is perfect.
Yeah, I would say this is the jump off point for like several episodes that we're going to see after this one, where you see her transitioning and just becoming a more complex character.
Indeed. I really love this character. I think she's great, and there's no doubt that she's walked the dark side for so long because she's seen just sorrow her whole life. She can't help but walk that dark line, be a part of the dark place, because that's really all she knows. And we're going to see that kind of finalize itself in this episode here. So let's get into it. Let's start talking about it. There's our barge again. All right. So the fortune cookie says, oh boy, look at this. It says one must let go of the past to hold on to the future. Holy smokes, right? And of course, the dark side. The dark side is what brings that along, right? They're all trying to let go of their demons, right? They're letting go of their dark side to try to make sense of their life. Don't you think? How
That's funny. That fortune cookie reminds me a lot of the saying of The Last Jedi, let the past die.
Yeah.
Kill it
Yeah.
if you have to.
Yeah. I just feel like that one has so many undertones saying let the whole past die, which is not good. But yeah, these dark side people, these people that have essentially regrets and whatnot, they try to let things go, right? Yeah.
I
So
love the look of the Night Sisters.
Yep. They're so cool looking. They're witches. They're ninjas. They're just amazing characters. It's almost like they developed Wonder Woman. You know, it's the planet that she's, or it's Themyscira, but it's in this dark forest, and they're all the females are the dominant, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's a
There
matriarchal society.
Yeah, there are males on the planet. They just the girls tend to rule with Mother Talzin, right? She has her magic, right?
Yeah.
So, like I said, this is a customizing show. So we will start with some of the things that we've seen in the show that we wanted to do, and it's a darn shame that Hasbro never gave us more Night Sisters, don't you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that was a missed opportunity. Yes, they did release a version of the Night Sister, and it was funny because it was almost a cross between the comic version, the whole expanded universe look of a Night Sister, a little bit of Mother Talzin thrown in there, a little bit of Night Sister thrown in there. It was almost like a hybrid of everything Night Sister all thrown into one.
Yeah, and unfortunately, folks, if you have that awesome figure, it is actually not Mother Talzin. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Or if it was, she definitely went through some changes since they had first, maybe provided an image to Hasbro where she's only like a glimmer of what she ended up being later.
Exactly, and I hope that you will share that with us soon here. I'll just get into mine. The first custom of the night is basically one of these ninjas or the warriors that I prepared, and there she is. I gave her a couple different swords. If you're seeing that there, she has that sword that Hondo came with.
Yep.
And then, of course, she has a sword from Prince of Persia.
Oh yeah, I know that line. Yep.
And I don't know how you feel, but I used Aura Singh pretty much the entire time that I made pretty much all of my Night Sisters. You used Ventress, right?
Yeah, just because there were so many of the bandages were already present.
Yeah.
Because they wrap their legs in bandages, they have their arms wrapped in bandages, so it was just like quick and easy, way to and I had several Ventresses laying around, which at this point, I mean, man, if I had known how expensive that figure would have become later in time, that's one of it. It'd be a lot harder, or it's going to be a lot more expensive to make Night Sisters now than it was back then.
Oh, I know. I collect a ton of Aura Singhs. I've just been collecting them forever, just because they make a great female body. They have that full articulation in the arms, where the Ventress has more of a swivel.
Yeah, I think that's one of the downsides to using the Ventress.
Yeah. So that's why I veered towards the Aura Singh for these characters, and this was my version of it. So this is the first character. She wasn't super hard. A lot of the things that you're seeing on her outfit are Procreate, that gray stuff that we use. It's become pretty versatile for me, and I love it. So there's the first one, and we'll get right back into it. This is a Ventress Inner Ninja outfit again. Can't believe it. I love it. Only she doesn't have the mask, right?
No, not that time.
Yeah, and here we see she's come back down. And what did she just come off of? Give us a recap of why she's back here.
So she was at the time, Dooku's apprentice, and essentially Palpatine had learned about her existence. Dooku had sold her off as she's my assassin, not so much an apprentice. I think at some point Palpatine kind of saw through the ruse, and he was like, yeah, you got to get rid of her, let her go, kill her. And Dooku, he did have an attachment to her. He did have a little bit of reservation about following that order, but ultimately he had to play the long game, and he was like, I got to do it. And sure enough, he tries to eliminate her. She was able to escape. She was extremely upset about the whole thing and ended up taken off over to Dathomir and met up with the Night Sisters. Ended up talking to Mother Talzin, coming up with a plan to get revenge on Dooku. They ended up getting one of the Zabrak males, who was Savage Opress, who coincidentally is the brother of Darth Maul. And they train him. Dooku takes him as an apprentice. Then Ventress ends up launching this plan that her and Talzin had concocted together to eliminate Dooku. And her and Savage Opress try to tag team Dooku and wipe him out, and that didn't go as planned. Savage Opress kind of went off script, and they both end up making their way back to Dathomir at some point. But Dooku, upset with the whole way things had played out, and having an idea of who was probably ultimately behind the whole thing, is now seeking retribution for the betrayal in this episode of Massacre.
Right. He's that treachery, that Mother Talzin has put upon them.
Yep.
So he's like, I'm not afraid of their tricks. I'm gonna send Grievous to it. But prior to that, we see Ventress come back, and she no longer has that mask on. She's aimless. She doesn't know what she wants to do, and Talzin basically says, you have us. You have us, so become a Night Sister again. Finally become a Night Sister, because she was sold as an infant, so she never really went through their ceremonies and whatnot. So she's going to do that now. It's kind of like a baptism is what they called it.
Yep.
Into their flock, I guess. Their evil coven. Yeah, they're coven, right? Exactly. But look at this picture. She wears her swords right on her back. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I like that. I was actually thinking, as I'm looking at that picture, I'm like, oh, I should drill some holes into her back, put some magnets back there, and drill some magnets into the hilts.
Yeah, you've used magnets a couple times, and that's worked out well for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of magnets. I mean, they're great for holding on backpacks. So that way, sometimes you get on site, like with many of the Star Wars backpacks, when it comes to action figures, they drill a hole in the back of the figure, and then you get the peg, and that's how you attach a backpack, or many of the things in the action figure collection to the bodies of the figures. And what I found with the magnets, yeah, you could still drill a hole. You could stick a magnet in there, fill that hole in, and then you're not seeing an unsightly hole in the back of your action figure. You could do the same to the backpack, and they stick very well together, and it becomes extremely aesthetically pleasing. So
I did that with my lots, which we're going to talk about next episode.
Yeah. And they make them so small. I mean, you really could. They make them so small, you could actually drill into the bottom of a lightsaber blade, stick a little tiny magnet in there, and then stick another magnet into like a hilt. And you can make a lightsaber that goes on and off, that's magnetically attached, and you could basically create the effect of having like an ignited and unignited lightsaber.
Yeah, I really like that with the Saga collection. That was 2004.
Yep.
Online. They had a lot of magnets, and I didn't really care for the push button action features, but a lot of the pulling the blades out of the lightsaber hilts, it was really nice and effective, and they did a really great thing when they did that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
That's where I got the idea to do those things, was from that action figure line.
Yeah, it was pretty popular. I think when you put a lot of time and effort into a collection, very much like the Clone Wars, that's why we do this. We give you the figures we only wish we had, that they could have carried on with, but they really did a good job by giving us a large amount of characters, different variety and whatnot, in the Clone Wars. But we take it to the next level, don't we?
Oh yeah, we try our best.
Yeah, I know. So here is the Ninja Ventress. I think I have a Ninja Ventress somewhere. Let's see here. No, I don't. For some reason, it's not in there. Maybe I need to update or something. I thought I put it in there. Oh yeah, there it is. Let's see here. Refresh. Let me see if it works. No, it didn't work again. Huh. You want to show your Ninja Ventress?
Yeah, I can do that real quick. Let me just let's see. Let me just make sure I'm on the right one. Yep, Mother Tales and Night Sisters. Okay.
Yeah, and I can't believe with a character like Ventress that we didn't get more varieties of Ventress in the show or in the toy line. Because, you know, we got one coming pretty much next episode in Bounty, where we see her in a really cool outfit, right?
Oh, I agree.
Oh, there you go.
I'm looking forward to that. So this is the Ventress I made. I made her, geez, this was a long time ago, back in 2012. So this is 7 years ago. I made it for Elias's 8th birthday. And I was basically on this 48-hour run of making 4 figures in 48 hours. I've never done anything like that again, thankfully. But I had started off by doing Mother Talzin. Then I threw in 2 Night Sisters. And the next morning, as I had worked all through the night, I found out that Imperial Shipyards was holding a contest for like making like a battle pack basically idea of everybody submit like 4 action figures, because back then we actually used to get 4 action figures in a battle pack, not just 3. Now we don't have battle packs at all, but so I was like, well, let me just throw the Ventress in there. So I basically took just your average Asajj Ventress figure. I just sculpted on the extra details, like on her forearms, the drapery in the front. I added, sculpted details into her boots. And I also did a thing where I gave her multiple heads. And I tried to make that scythe that she had. I probably would do it differently now. I think it's a bit too long, but I actually did it onto a shoelace. I basically, cut up the little pieces of plastic and glued those on there. And then I sculpted on all the handle details. And I think I sculpted the metal part right here out of, I want to say it's Aves Fix-It, maybe. And then I also did another head, so that way it has like the ninja mask on there as well. So this one has 3 different heads. And that's basically how I went about making her. I think my favorite of the heads though is the one that has the hood without the mask over it.
Without the mask, yeah, that's how she appears in this episode. I actually found mine as well. It's a little rough right now, but I just started it. Let's say I want to say half a year ago, and I applied like some plastic and also some cloth.
Nice.
Her lower dress is a cloth, but I don't have her completely finished, paint it and everything. So she's a little rough, a little rough around the edges. But man, I was just bummed that we didn't get more Ventress because she was just so darn popular.
Yeah, I was surprised. We only really got that one action figure, and that was it.
Yeah,
and you know, considering how many different ways that we did see her and how many different outfits we did get her in, that's one of the reasons why we do this show, because we just feel like the Clone Wars action figure line is an incomplete line in so many ways.
yeah, and just our love for it too. I mean,
Yeah,
I collect and I'm a fan. You know, I think they walk hand in hand together. Honestly, I just can't. I couldn't be without collecting if I was just a fan. I mean, there are people out there that just like to watch the films, and that's cool. You know, but I like to do the toys too. You know, from our childhood, right?
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a big animation fan too. So here we see back to the show here. Thank you for that. Thank you for showing that.
No problem.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you for yours.
Yeah, that's great. So we see Dooku and he sends Grievous. This is kind of we're starting to see the progression where it's going into episode 3. My wife was talking to me last night. She's like, so where does the Clone Wars take place? And I'm like, it takes place between 2 and 3, because she was thinking, oh, does it take place, after 3? I was like, no. Even though it came after 3, after they developed it, it was before 3. But she's like, sometimes that's a little hard to understand. Yeah. So here you're seeing them integrate her into the Night Sisterhood, so that she could be completely trusted. Right? They have her drop into this dark water, and she comes out with these magics, this green magic, kind of fitting for St. Patty's Day today, right?
Oh, for sure. I'm so glad that this all lined up the way that it did.
Yeah, and then we see, of course, here is Grievous's army heading for Dathomir, and they're having a party, right? You get to see some of the other Night Sisters, some of the more creative ones, the neat-looking ones, as they're dancing along and everything, and right away, Ventress. Well, before I get into that, this is kind of a concept. I want to say this was in Witches of the Mist. This character, the one with the dreadlocks. That was the earlier time that we saw the Dathomirian witches. So I made her also.
Oh, no way. When'd you do that one?
A long time ago.
I did not know that. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, a year and a half ago.
Wow. And you posted that?
I don't think I have posted it.
I didn't think so.
This is the first time you're seeing this. And I don't recall what her name is. Do you know what her name was? Or was she just a mere concept? I know we did see somebody with dreadlocks, right?
That I don't remember.
Yeah. So once again, this is the Aura Singh character. And I made kind of a weapon for her that the little blade, it actually fires.
Does it really?
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
You don't want to shoot it at your face or kids or anything. Danger, kids. Be careful.
Now, is that one of those clear rubber bands that have been painted? That way you get that elasticity to do that?
Yeah, it was more of it's a plastic rubber band, and what you do is you flick it. You basically flick the back of it, and it'll shoot the arrow or the. That was kind of a neat little weapon, don't you think? The bow that had a laser, kind of a laser arrow.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I made mine out of lightsabers.
Yeah, it reminds me of Dungeons and Dragons. You remember that cartoon that we watched?
When we were little?
Yeah. Yep. And the guy had a laser bow. And I'm sure Filoni pulled that from there. Because he's crazy. Yeah. And it shows in this episode too. Here we see they're celebrating, and she finally makes a friend, right?
Yep.
And
is her name Karis?
Yeah.
Karis. He makes a friend with Karis, right? And then here comes Dooku's army and Grievous's army, and all of a sudden she's dead. you can see why this lady walks the dark side, because everything good that comes to her,
she loses.
She loses everything. She is the epitome of what Anakin has to go through, because it's happening to her every single point of her life. All the changes, she loses everything every time. Don't you think?
And Karis was one of the Night Sisters that actually went with her in that mission to assassinate Dooku, from what I remember.
Is that right? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think she was one of, I think, was it 2 other Night Sisters that went with her, or 3?
No.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
but she was one of the 2 that had gone with her in that mission.
Oh man, talk about a cool custom. If they made the Ninja Witch or the Ninja Ventress, and then she was see-through, like see-through plastic, like clear plastic. Could you imagine that? That would
that would have been cool.
You know, like a invisible mist,
Yep.
mist of a Ninja Witch. Right?
That would be awesome.
I dream like that, man. There's another one coming up that would be an awesome concept, in my opinion. But here we see the army. They are coming in, and here we have Talzin doing such an amazing thing. She like lifts up, she levitates, and she creates this green ball around her, and just bang, fires this electricity out of it, and just takes out a ton of the forces, right?
Yeah, actually, when I made my figure of Talzin,
Yeah,
I ended up using a giant green hamster ball to put her
That thing's
inside.
more of a guinea pig ball. That thing's huge.
But I'll show you when I go through my Talzin pictures how I tried to recreate that the best I could.
Can we see?
Maybe I can show you now. I mean,
Talzin. Let's go to Talzin and let's kind of discuss. We've done this before, but let's kind of give them a recap of what you did with your Talzin, because I think you did a great job. And I haven't touched mine. Mine is basically that basic form that we got from the 3-pack, the 3-pack. So if you can show us your Talzin, and this is the mother of all witches. She's the den mother. She is amazing. She's just this magic user. I love the magic that you put around her hands and everything too.
Yeah, I think that came either from Emperor Palpatine figure, or
it was the Vader,
the electrocuted Vader, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, It was that electrocuted Vader figure that had the skull like in the helmet. That's where I stole the magic from, and I just painted it green rather than the electric blue. And but for Talzin herself, that's actually that Night Sister figure from that 3-pack that came with Savage and Maul with the robot legs. Mm-hmm. And I just completely revamped her. I sanded the whole upper torso, resculpted her chest. I added the long sleeves. I used like old rubber capes from the Power of the Force line to make the shoulder pads and the wings at the back. I ended up using, I think it was green stuff. Actually, I even have a small handful of work in progress pictures of her, just to give you an idea of some of the things I did. Now, one of the problems with that Night Sister figure that had come out, she was very short, and Mother Talzin's extremely tall. I would say like Chewbacca tall. And to make her Chewbacca tall, what I did was I ended up like cutting her legs in certain areas and then inserting basically a second pieces of the legs of a second Night Sister figure, just to give her some height and like basically to keep the bandages so they all flow where you can't really tell that it's 2 legs put together. I think I did some sculpting on the thighs. Now all these back rubber pieces are actually from the original Night Sister figure, but I ended up cutting some of that plastic off of one, gluing it to another, dremeling the line where they would attach, and then smoothing that out with green stuff. And then I had some red fabric, and then I attached all of that to actually give the full length in soft goods, so it would like drag out along the floor, because she almost has like a train, like a bride's dress. So yeah, there was quite a bit of work actually went into this one.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, it looks like you did a lot of clothing too, a lot of draping and whatnot. You put a little cloth in there, right? Is that
Yeah,
cloth?
actually, I had Elias's mom do the soft good, like at least the sewing. Like I cut out the patterns and I had the fabric the way I wanted, and I was like, she had a sewing machine, and I was, like I said, I did all these, and like I think I started on a Friday night, and I want to say Elias's birthday was maybe Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do basically 100% sculpted figure. I had to I made 2 other Night Sisters that day and that Ventress, all within a 48-hour period, and I just didn't sleep.
Oh my God.
Nice.
I just, like, he went to bed, he woke up in the morning, and I was still going, but in the end, I gave him a nice little like set that he still has to this day, and it's cool for him, because I think out of all the figures that he owns, this figure is the only one in his entire collection that was worked on by both of his parents.
Nice. There we go. Yeah, and I like accessories too. I think accessories make it really.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
And let's see if I can find that hamster ball shot. Oh yeah, I even did like a wax Dooku doll.
Nice.
From one of the holograms that came with Ventress. And there's the green ball effect.
The green ball, the green hamster ball effect.
Yeah.
You ought to put a little bit of that magic, that lightning coming out
the front.
Coming out of the front of the hamster ball.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, you could put it on a base, and like, bigger displays. I really love when they do that kind of stuff, when they add to it accessories that really recreate the scene. Star Wars is all about world building, especially in the toys. It's not just here's a character and there you go. Kind of like what they do today with more of the 6-inch line, where it's just more character focused. I would love it if they took more time to do things like this, where they have balls of magic, balls of light around them, crystal balls, and little dolls, and every little thing that you could possibly put with the character to kind of rebuild the scene or recreate the scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at this, I had to lighten up this picture a lot, but it's still not doing it any justice. Look how big this army is. They have no chance. They are there to wipe them out. And he even says that too. Dooku says that same thing, and it really harkens back to the Phantom Menace, where they're invading a world, and Dooku's like, wipe them out, all of them. And here comes the army, and they're just overwhelmed. There's no way that the Dathomirian witches are going to survive this.
No, it's a numbers game. They get overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I love it. Grievous is just sitting back in his chair, watching and waiting, and just kind of listening to the whole thing, kind of like a maniacal genius, like he is. I just adore Grievous. I think he's the greatest.
I love him in this episode. Like, some of the visuals you get from this episode with him are some of the most fun moments that you get in the Clone Wars.
I agree. So he's just waiting to see what's going to happen, because Dooku also warned him of their treachery, their magics. People know Dathomir is kind of a haunted place, if you will. And there's no doubt, because they use this, it's surrounded by magic. It's surrounded by this dark magic that comes from this planet, that oozes from this planet's waters, right?
Yeah. And those waters are kind of significant. They're sacred waters. And interestingly enough, that's where that ends up being Asajj Ventress's final resting place.
I know. Spoiler alert. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, we are a spoiler heavy show. We said it in the beginning, so.
That's true. Yep. Yeah, we're doing this. We're doing this up. You know, we've been watching this, and we're just fans of it. I watch this over and over and over, and I just love it. I love this show. I wish sometimes I could just stay home all day and
Same here.
watch the Clone Wars. Just
and customize as I do it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that would be a dream. But our next one, so they realized. Let me just get into this real quick. They realized that they're going to need some help because they're becoming overwhelmed. So Towson, as creepy as she is, there's also another equally creepy person, and this is probably my favorite custom I think I've ever seen you guys do. You've done some great work over the years, but I just adore this. So this is Mother Towson's kind of. She's the oldest and wisest. Her name is Old Daka. She's just a crazy, creepy witch, right?
Yeah.
Look at that face in the background. I lighten this up a little bit. There's like a face in the rocks.
Yeah, if you didn't lighten that up, I wouldn't have noticed. But that is a statue of her own face back there.
Yeah, just creepy, creepy, creepy. You guys got to definitely do that crystal ball there because. This is
we have a little marble that we use for that. We have a clear marble that when we play, we use the glass marble, which I think when we did the photo shoot, we couldn't find it that day.
Yeah.
It's floating around somewhere.
It's up there on the shelf right now.
Okay. It's been located since, but yeah, that's what we do.
Daka, she's so awesome. You guys did this last year, right?
I actually can't say I have no part in this whatsoever. This was 100% Elias. This is like one of those things where I just I kind of got floored. I was like, wow, I couldn't believe. I remember him being like this little kid, like saying, "Dad, can we make custom action figures?" And when we first started, he'd be like wanting to paint on super articulated figures, and they were expensive at the time. And I'd be like, I'm like, when you nail your paint jobs, you can start working on super articulated figures. So to see him go from that kid who wasn't allowed to work on super articulated figures due to the cost involved to doing 100% sculpted figure at the level of that old Daka that we're about to show, it was like a really proud moment as a parent. And I sincerely am at the point where I think he's the best customizer in the house now. I mean, just last year, I just saw him surpass me by a great deal as far as where the skill levels are in the home. And yeah,
I don't know about all that.
Let's see it.
All right, we'll bring it up. But sure. Yeah, I can't take credit for anything except for nitpicking and be like, you got to do this. You should really do that. Outside of my critical input to try and take it from here and get it to where it is now, I never touched the thing.
Cool. Well, talk about it, Elias. Once he pulls it up, kind of give us your play-by-play. Why did you want to do this character?
It wasn't more because I wanted to do it. He kind of told me to. It was assigned to me. So I was like, okay, I'll do it.
It wasn't really assigned. I mean, we were talking about it on the show because we knew this episode was coming up. And I was like, oh, you should make old Daka. And, it was a light suggestion. And at the time you were like, yeah, I can do it. You were getting kind of cocky. But man, let me tell you, you follow. Not only did you follow through, but you surpassed all expectations I ever would have had when it comes down to you basically shut down any doubts I had about your customizing skills ever again.
Well,
okay.
Tell us about it, Elias. Tell us a little bit.
I used a lot of parts you really wouldn't expect. Like the bottom part, I used the Lama Su robe. And I just cut off the bottom because it's really long. He's all tall and all that. So I just cut it off maybe 3/4 of the way down. Mm-hmm. And then sculpted all over that. You can't even tell that there's a Lama Su robe in there anymore. There's so much sculpted onto that.
Lama Su has no hips. And the only reason why we use the Lama Su is the upper part of the body is Luminara Unduli. And you can't really tell there either because, you know, Elias modified her rack where, you know, she's, let's just be honest, like, I get, you know, Old Doc is a little more endowed than Luminara Unduli is, and maybe a little more saggy. So, but that, like, pretty much that, the arms, the upper torso, that's all Luminara Unduli. But, you know, Luminara Unduli at the waist is very thin and narrow. So Lamassu was really the only place where, like,
it was thin and narrow too. So I had to like give her these like big bell hips and like. This is an intensely modified, like there's no way to give like a real recipe because honestly you can't even see
well, that is the recipe parts. I mean, it's more,
you can't really see any of the old parts anymore though. They're
all, I would say that.
And that's how I like to do things. I like to Frankenstein things together, and it's like, oh, there's like 5 figures in here. You know?
Yeah,
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
I love it. It's really,
and the face was also heavily modified.
Yeah, I used a Palpatine, modified that, the headdress, handmade.
Or Sidious, actually, because it was the Clone Wars Sidious figure.
Same person.
Same person, but there was no, you don't want to say Palpatine.
Okay.
Just, you know, if someone's ever going to try and recreate it, it's the Clone Wars Darth Sidious minus the hood. And then heavily modified, the face is heavily modified, and obviously all the, pretty much everything on that head is Procreate.
Yeah, and you had molded and casted the head, right? That's
I did, and sadly, it's sad to report that mold no longer exists.
Yeah, they break down, don't they?
They do, and I got my money's worth out of it. And for a long time, I thought that, you know, I had even ran out of all the casts. I just found 2, just maybe 2 days ago, and I'm just gonna turn them into some Chancellor Palpatines in the black robe just to maybe sell on eBay or something.
Nice. There you go. All right. Well, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. I think
no problem.
She is just great. I really love it. Great job, Elias. You did.
We ended up doing the same thing with the green mist for her as well. And for tips for anybody who wants to actually try and make this, the thing I should share, there are very, very few pictures showing what she looks like from behind. And what I would recommend, there was a game, it's called, was it Galaxy of Heroes?
Yeah.
And it's a video game that you play on your handheld device, your phone, or I would say would probably be able to play it on an iPad. That I can't verify for sure. But yeah, I ended up coming up with.
You just had to unlock her in the game, and then like as she like when they show like the avatar, like it rotates, and when you see it from the back, it gives you like a really good opportunity to like take a screenshot.
Exactly.
Reference.
Yeah.
And I'll see if I could. I have one of those images I could share just so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Having a lot of pictures, a lot of reference, just to get it as close as possible. That's the goal here. I think when you have something that's as close as this is, this image that you're showing right now.
Are you seeing it?
Yeah, you can be really successful once you have all the options. That's great.
I mean, all the detail you get that you normally wouldn't find watching an episode. This was super helpful for making this character. And I even found there's this great website. It's called The Color Cron. It's on Tumblr, and they do this. They basically break down the color scheme of every not every character, but a lot of Clone Wars characters.
Nice.
Like I guess they use some kind of computer program, and they break down the exact color grid that you're going to need for each character. So I highly recommend anyone who maybe like you have doubts, because the lighting changes when you're watching your Clone Wars episodes. So what this individual does is break down the color scheme for each character. They do it for Stila. They do it for, I mean, it's just a whole list of characters. And it's called the Color Cron instead of the Holocron. And highly, highly recommend it. And let me just see if I could go back a bit. So this is like some of the early stages. As you can see, that's the Night Sister dress right there.
Oh, sure.
And I had already did some of added some of those details. But these are like the early stages. You can see where I started sculpting in with green stuff. Some of the those long tails to cover up the braids. I highly recommend, if you're going to do something like that, put saran wrap there. And what you're doing when you're putting the saran wrap there is you're making it so none of this green stuff sticks to your figure. And after it dries, you pop the head off, you take your saran wrap off, and then you have a free moving piece, and you don't have to worry about anything adhering to one another and losing some of that mobility that you want in your figure.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea. Oh, there's your Night Sister ninjas there too.
Yeah, well, these are the beginning stages. As you tell, like on this one, she's not quite painted yet. These are kind of work in progress of everybody. I was like trying to like hunt through and see, like on here you have the Night Sister belt. Instead of taking a circle, I cut it so it has more of a rectangular shape. I trimmed down her tabard. I think these pieces here, either they're shoulder pads or
that's Massacre headdress.
Oh, okay. That's a Massacre headdress that I used to create that texturized piece right there. Just that, like, fill out her hips and give some, just something more creative look to, her hips.
Yeah, and like you used with the ventris legs, I would pull the ventris legs off, and I actually put them in place of the Arasing. The Arasing that I used, I pulled her legs off because she had more of a boot, and I would use that same braided or bandaged leg to make it. But here we are with old Daka, Miss Creepy, and she starts summoning things in these crystal ball, and we realize she's going to give them help by summoning the undead army. And there's that green mist again, right? The green mist. And she's gonna, wake the dead. It's very, very Lord of the Rings, very awesome, very, very cool. I was just blown away by this. My eyes were like popping out of my head when they did this. They came out of these like cocoons that are hanging from the trees.
I think that's their form of burial. I think they actually hang them in those like sacks.
Yeah,
because you can see those sacks are kind of knit together. They're sewn together, like different fabrics sewn together, and they hang them in the trees to basically mummify, I would assume, in the sun.
Yeah. So this is my next custom that I'm going to get into. This is my second version. I will also show my first version as well. But man, wouldn't it have been great to get zombie figures? Any zombie figure sells because people love zombies, right?
Yeah, the zombie phenomenon is very popular in our culture for some reason, and probably because it's fun,
Yeah, even that GI Joe, the zombie.
Yeah, the zombie trooper. I still have a few of those still sealed.
I never even found them. That's how popular they were. But so I decided I had to go back in and make another zombie. Because I had gotten rid of my first one. I didn't get rid of it. I sold it to you.
Yeah, so, we have it.
Yeah, so this is my second version, and I did that same thing. I kind of took that same idea that you had, and I created the magic coming out of their eyes, because that's what's the driving force of this character. And once again, I used the Arasing body. And just applied all the different kind of features they had. I, of course, used a reference to, I don't have it in here, I think, but here's some of the pictures. This is kind of the first time you're seeing this. I did post this on Instagram a while back, yet this is the first time you're officially seeing it, as a character that I created.
Man, I love that.
Thanks. This is one of my favorite ones right here, because I don't know the way the sun, if you're looking to the left, the sun is coming in and it's just hitting the eyes just right.
I agree. It's it's awesome.
And I don't normally do this, but I did one just for fun. This is a Photoshop version, and it's kind of I took the magic that's just Procreate in itself. I just made it squiggles and let it dry upon itself. But I took a little Photoshop, a little creative Photoshopping, and I made it kind of fall behind her, kind of trailing back behind her head a little bit. But that's the actual character and everything. I made her eyes glow a little bit, and her jaw is freestanding. So what you're seeing right there, you're actually seeing through the jaw.
Yeah, you actually designed it so it actually has that hollow.
Yeah,
it's actually present. It's not Photoshop that's doing that.
Yeah, the head that I use, I literally cut off the lower jaw, and then I added that. To it, and then of course I put it on the ball and peg and just made it the best it could be. So there is my newest zombie, and I think if they made these, they would have sold by the ton. Talk about sell out. It would have just sold out.
Oh God, yeah, for sure. Yeah, if they just threw one of those, a real Towson, one or two Night Sisters, that would have been an incredible 4-pack. People would have bought several just to build armies.
I agree. Our army building would have happened instantly with this character. Yeah, but let's move on. That was my second rendition of my zombie. I'll show you the next one here shortly. But carrying on, we see another character, Luce. I believe her name was Luce.
Yeah, she was actually portrayed by Jamie King, Kyle Newman's wife.
That's great. Yeah, she was awesome. She had kind of a mohawk and a kind of a different hairdo.
She kind of reminds me of Mad Max Fury Road, like the blah, blah, you know.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, she's actually one of the Night Sisters. There's not much more Night Sister work that I want to do. I maybe want to clean up and improve on old sculpts, but if I was ever going to make a new Night Sister, she would be at the top of my list.
I hear you, man. Yeah, she was definitely cool. I would have loved to have made her. I didn't really get around to it. But I definitely think I want to go there too.
Yeah, I don't blame you. She's eye-catching, you know?
Yeah, she really was. Here is a turnaround. Like Brian was talking about earlier, it's always good to have a nice reference. And this just comes from Google Images. I think I picked it up, and you can see kind of the design on her face and whatnot, and the whole turnaround to make her. And you could use either one. You can use Aura Singh, you could use Asajj Ventress if they come available, or you.
It's a lot more like Aura Singh.
Yeah, it does. As I'm looking at it in the hips, it's totally Aura Singh. I was like, would I just cut it at the short line and then glue on the Ventress legs?
Yeah.
From, afterwards on the way down. But yeah, I agree. It's more Aura Singh.
Yeah, and they
even build.
You could use the bottom. What I did most of the time with all my different characters is I just put the lower leg on. I just snapped it on because it's on a peg. Yep. And I just added the upper bandages with some of the characters that I produced. But moving on, we see for the first time ever, we wondered what happened to it. It was in season 1, the defoliator tank, right?
Yeah.
And
locked dirt.
Yeah, they were done at this point. There was no way they were going to win this because we know what damage the defoliator tank can produce. It shoots kind of a bomb, a missile that lights a huge fire, right? Burns everything in its path. And the vehicle or the robots are most certainly unaffected, but the Night Sister witches are just getting engulfed in flames. And that's when we finally get our zombie reinforcements, right? And they were crazy too because they were running full force. They were just like screaming and like doing all this crazy stuff.
It was almost like they were doing parkour.
Yeah.
as they're going,
Yeah, I mean, when you see a zombie that's going real slow, you're like, okay, I can get away from this thing. But like in World War Z, where
Yep.
they're really fast,
Yep.
that's scary as hell, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
That's like a steam train engine going.
yeah. So the magic is propelling these dead women. Even though they'll get their arms ripped off, their legs ripped off, they'll get shot a bunch of times. They keep getting up because it's the magic that's keeping it going.
Yep.
Right.
No,
And
no
so,
headshot's is gonna save anything on this one.
yeah. So this is my original one, and you have this one, right?
Yeah.
And this is really different actually. I used believe it or not, I used a Geonosian warrior to make the body.
That's cool.
I flipped it around. What I did is I turned it around the waist backwards, and then I cut the lower portion off the tail, and then I added female legs to it to make it a little bit more like an old decrepit skeleton lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one was truly unique when I first made it, and there's a couple pictures of it. A lot of people have probably seen this picture online. It's been, around since 2012 at least.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. We've been doing this for quite a long time. Just our fandom has carried us along. As we see these episodes, we produce these figures, and that was my first rendition, and I just love it. I just love the idea of zombie characters.
I'm with you. Yeah, especially Night Sister ones.
Yeah, and so while Daka is using the magic, you can see the kind of the trail going on that's leading all the zombies. Towson has another mission. She tells these girls to go get a sphere, and what does she pull out of it?
Dooku's hair.
Yep, Dooku's hair. She has the means to just put him in a world of hurt, and I guess he doesn't realize it. He doesn't realize how dangerous these people really are with their magic. And we have seen recently how especially in the comics that Anakin quite possibly could have been formed out of Sith magic, right?
Yeah.
And we're also seeing that with the dark Mother Towson magic. She can go across the galaxy and she can put a hurting on this guy from far away. I mean, he's on Sereno, and all of a sudden he starts feeling this rash come over him because she's burning that little
doll. She's like putting like the head like into like this like boiling cauldron.
Yeah, right. And you made that little character, and that was great. This is my favorite Grievous shot right here. If you're seeing that, I have this as my screen saver right now.
Oh, do you really? That's awesome.
Yeah, they go and they do one of those classic let's be in the schoolyard, and if I win, you go home. If you win, we'll surrender. But he's there to decimate them, so he's not going to play fair.
No, he always plays dirty in general.
Yeah, and right at the very end, she gets shot, and then Luce gets shot, and she's kind of the person that kind of foretells their doom. She's like, "We're doomed. There's no hope left. Save yourself." She basically tells her to go save herself because they're both shot at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ventress is shot. She's shot, and she ends up, of course, dying. And this was the one that I love. I would love to have seen this as a toy. Where a misty Towson is like busting out of his chest.
Oh, imagine that would be amazing.
Imagine that. And talk about the greatest hologram ever. A magic hologram right out of your chest.
Yeah, that would be, especially when you have the shredded fabric like coming along the sides. Forget it.
Man, yeah, that would be something I would love to make. Just that would be completely out there. You know, I did make the Dooku in the pajamas a while back, but you know, this would top it all. This would truly top it all. A Dooku that's suffering from a plague of some sort, and Talzin busting out of his chest. She's threatening him. She's saying, You have no power over us. You don't have anything. And he realizes that the magic is the source. So he tells Grievous to go after her. And, of course, Grievous finds them really quick. And he picks up Daka and slices her through, right?
Yep.
And what happens? So the magic goes away, and so the zombies go away.
Yeah.
They fall to the ground, and they just pretty much... They annihilate the entire Magic Sister Coven, right?
Yeah, it was very similar to what happened to the battle droids in Episode 1 after Anakin took out the trade blockade.
Right. It very much harkens back to Phantom Menace. It's great. Yep. Yeah. So Mother Talzin, she just decides to become one with the Force, and turn into this mist, right? Yep. Maybe she surrenders to it or something. I think ultimately she is really not of this world anymore, right? Would you say?
Yeah, there are times where she does manifest in a physical form. Later in season 6, in an arc with Jar Jar and Mace Windu, and then later in the comic,
it's almost like she needs the Force to be able to come back. She almost kind of like escaped the only way she could, but also trapped herself.
Yeah.
And then she shows up later in the comic series. Was it Son of Dathomir?
Son of Dathomir, yeah.
Where you find out she's Darth Maul's mother.
Yeah. And this is eerie, too, because, you know, Ventress goes running. Like I said, she's shot. She's wounded. And everything has fallen silent. She's out in the forest, this forest. And what does she say? She's like, you always have us, but you're on your own now. So there she goes. She's lost it again. She's
almost like Obi-Wan to Luke.
Yeah, and but she's like the dark version of it. Once again, she's lost everything. She's hopeless. Now she really is on her own, right?
Yeah. She
doesn't have a choice. She's on her own. She doesn't necessarily have anyone. And this is awesome because it definitely left on a cliffhanger. Even though the next episode is coming, it would have been coming the next week, right?
Yeah.
But it really was a cliffhanger episode for Ventress. Like I said, one of the greatest characters in the entire Star Wars universe, just because she's taken so many turns in her journey, in her villain's journey or her hero's journey, right? Oh, there's the Ventress. Yes, indeed. So let me get back here, and that was the episode.
I do have to still show my Night Sisters.
Okay, lay it on us, man.
I'll do that real fast.
Yeah,
but,
do it.
Yeah, for the Night Sisters, like I said, they were just made adventurous. I showed them before when they were, in a work in progress phase. This is what they ended up coming out with finished. This is actually made. You got Ventress lightsaber there, another Ventress lightsaber there. Ooh, there. These are, I think, handles from. I want to say Savage. Yeah, that battle axe that came with Savage.
Yep.
And then Red's lightsabers.
There you go.
To make that. Then I had this was a sculpted sword that I did for that one.
Okay.
I think it had elements of. It might have been a Prince of Persia that was severely modified because it had that little thin. If you saw the episode, they had like this little thin metal piece, and I think I just made that out of a piece of metal.
Yeah, or it could have been the Pirates of the Caribbean. Those toys were running rampant.
Yeah, I just used some sword that was laying around, and what I did You know, because we had the one Undead Night Sister.
Yep.
I think it was Star Wars Geek. Oh, and I do want to say these heads are not sculpted by me. These are casts that were made by Star Wars Geek, not Star Wars Geek, Rift Valley Designs. He also goes by I Am Boba Fett, but he was selling the heads at the time.
Yeah.
So all I had to do was paint them up and then add them to the body and, you know, basically just address sculpting to the body, but I didn't have to do anything with the heads. And I think, I want to say it was Star Wars Geek had a zombie female head. So I just painted one of those up and then I made it so my Night Sisters have a swappable head. They're not as deteriorated and they don't look anywhere close to as zombified as what you did, but I figured just to diversify the undead Night Sister, I would just paint up one of these heads and stick it onto one of my Night Sister bodies and give it a swappable head so you have either or.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I like the idea of, and those are brilliant. I Am Boba Fett, he's awesome too.
Yeah.
Done a lot of great Clone Wars items in the past, and hopefully he's still doing it because I just think his stuff is great.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So if you're out there, dude, we really love your work. I really think it's great. Man, yeah, that was awesome. It was so awesome. I love head swaps too. They could do that and really put a little bit more time and effort into the toys. And
yeah, even if they did like pin joints, like they did in Ponda Baba, where you could pop out a regular arm and stick in a bony arm, and just like do that with one of the legs.
Right.
You know, if you did that and did a swappable head, you can get two figures, you know, for the price of one, essentially. And man, could people army build something like that?
Yeah, put a little bit more value in it, right?
Yeah, one extra head, an extra arm, extra leg, and it'd be heaven.
It would be. It would be. Awesome. Awesome. That was a great episode. We love that episode.
Yeah, it was nice to see bad guy versus bad guy. I think that's the first time they introduced that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I guess not, because you have the Savage and the Savage going against Dooku, but they revisit that theme a few times throughout the Clone Wars, and that's something you didn't really get in at least the Star Wars films or previous official like canon content. I don't know if it was done in the EU because I'm not as well versed in the EU as maybe some people would like me to be, but it was nice to see that theme currently reintroduced throughout the Clone Wars.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was awesome. So when I'm not here, I am at Peak-OB1 Custom Creations on Facebook, or you can also find me on Instagram at Peak-OB1 Custom Figures. And where can we find you when you're not here?
Best place to get us would be on the Customs for the Kid blog, which is at www.customsforthekid.blogspot.com. We basically redesigned the whole look of our blog since the last time we did a show. So now our index is here if you ever want to see all the stuff that we've made. I just did a video just to give you a tour of like how to use the blog and what features are available here. If you need to email us, our email address is present. If you ever want to catch all the episodes that we've done for customizing the Clone Wars, we have that right at the top, so you could, go through. It has the entire playlist to work through. I do want to thank everybody who, our last episode, who had took the time that evening to vote for Elias in the Custom Action Figure Artist of the Year contest that they were having there. Elias ended up taking the win from Toy News International.
Awesome. That's great. That's great news.
And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, and it used to be Google Plus, but I think we only have maybe one more month with Google Plus, and Google Plus will be no more. All the Google Plus links on the blog no longer exist. Blogger already removed them. They're not. You can't even put them on there anymore. So you will not be finding us on Google Plus anymore because that whole platform is going to be void.
Yeah, there will be a lot of changes. We won't talk about it too much, but as more episodes come out, you will see a little bit more changes as to how we're going to finish it out, and we'll discuss that later on. I will be going to Celebration, folks, so I will be representing Celebration for us, customizing the Clone Wars, of course, and my personal site, which is Peak-OB1 Custom Creations.
I'm looking forward to that launch.
Yeah, I might even have a piece of swag, so I'll share that later on, and it will be, of course, Clone Wars oriented because we love the Clone Wars. But I'm not going to share it right now. I will share a video at some point once I see that it's available. But Celebration is going to be off the hook. You will definitely see more episodes coming. Bounty is my favorite episode of the entire show, and that's next time. So until then, thanks for joining us. May the Force be with you. And
may the Force. Oh,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say may the Force be with you always, and happy St. Patrick's Day.
You go on. I've said it enough.
Yeah. And happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Yep. All right. Check you later. See ya.
Take care.